Okay, one of the things that I want to point out that maybe weren't so clear in some of the previous video is how do we pass data back to the views? So I know before we were using a lot of sessions, right, to pass data back to the file that renders HTML. Now remember that in MVC framework, the view files, all the data that the view files has or that it has access to, even including session data, needs to come from the controller. So let me do a little example on how you can pass. I'm at the welcome controller, and this is in the index method that renders the welcome message view. So this is how it works. So let's create a data and have this be an array. And then I'm going to have some stuff. For example, let's say errors. This is, let's say, even an array that has some error messages. Error 1. So it's an array that has error 1, error 2. Okay, and let's say data, let's say user information, and this information you get it from the session. Now CodeIgniter has a great documentation on session. So how do you get session? So session, you use this, but this needs to happen in the controller. So let's say, for example, that you stored the user information in the session using CodeIgniter's tool, where you set the session. So how do you set the session? This is how you set the session, and then now you want to retrieve it. How do you do that? You retrieve the session, you put that in the data user info. Let's do another thing. Data, let's say for example title is new title. Okay, so I have this array and I can pass this data to the view file. Okay, so let's just make sure that this works, that there's no error message. So I have localhost point to CodeIgniter. There is an undefined property session 25, probably because I needed to auto load the session library here. So let's make sure that I put that in my libraries, and then let's go back and load it. So in order to use the set, you are required to set an encryption key. Okay, alright. Config encryption key, I'll just put coding dojo. Alright, there. So it's working. And now let's see how. And I'm just gonna do welcome / index, and it renders. It goes to this controller and it goes to welcome message, right? So when I go to welcome message, this is what's very interesting. I can have access to the stuff that I passed in data, but that information is going to be available by $errors. This information is going to be available in $user info. So the keys in this array is going to be created as a variable that I can access in my views. Okay, so look at this. I can var dump the errors. Okay, that's that. I can var dump user info. Okay, that was from my session data, and I can var dump the title. So maybe the title is what I use here. Okay, so I put title there, and let's see how this works. Look at that. Okay, yeah, I need a PHP code, right? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, alright. Var dump, awesome. So errors, that's the error, right? It passed the array. User info, well, that came from the session, didn't really have anything, so it says false. And the title is new title. You can see that it updated the title tag as well. So anyway, this is really important, how you pass data to the view. All the form data, everything, all needs to be passed to this array that you pass to the view method. Okay, so you can again pass back the session data, some of the things that you're gonna pass back to the view to change the title, or different arrays that you got from the models that you need to pass to the views, so that in the views you can go through the arrays and echo out whatever. That all needs to be prepared in the controller and passed to the view file, and the keys in that array is going to be created as a variable that you can access directly in the view file. Alright, hope that makes sense.